Okay. Well, hello to all of our guests today, and welcome to our GTACC webinar discussion on women in contact center technology, embracing innovation and driving change. I'm Elizabeth Sedlacek, and I'm proudly representing a company called Contact Point 360, and I'm truly honored to guide our conversation as your moderator for today's session. So today we have the privilege of delving into a crucial and timely topic that celebrates the contributions of women in the technology sector. This panel serves as a platform to amplify the of voices of women trailblazers, thought leaders, and change makers who are making waves in various domains of technology. So throughout our discussion today, we will have questions that will explore the experiences, the insights, and perspectives of our esteemed panelists as they navigate the ever-evolving terrain of technology. It's with great pleasure that I introduce our esteemed panelists. So first, let's welcome Afshan Kinder. Afshan?
Oh, thanks, Elizabeth. And I'm just delighted to be here with everybody. And thanks to Sangeeta for coordinating all of this. My name is Afshan Kinder. I have two companies, Switchgear and Elevate to Great. And we provide...
Love the name. Love the name. Amazing.
We provide, consultative services for transformations, whether you want to have your contact center in-house or out, I was going to say outhouse, sorry, outsourced. And we also have a huge training catalog where our sweet spot is, to provide soft skills training as well as leadership and coaching training. So we do quite a broad selection of services. And as I said, I'm thrilled to be here and thank you for asking.
Absolutely, and we appreciate your time and your experiences and really looking forward to hearing from you, Afshan. Next, we have Elda. Elda Help.
Hi, everybody. Elda Help here. Some of you may know me. I'm based here in Canada, in Toronto, but supporting North America-wide. Omelia Strategic Sales. Omelia Conversational Intelligence is a company that's been around over a decade now in the AI space. AI is new for a lot of people, but it's not new to Omelia. We've been working on it for a long time. And I lead the strategic sales as a regional VP here.
Wonderful. Looking forward to hearing more about AI from you, Elda. Thanks for sharing and thanks for coming. Moving forward, we're honored to have Shannon Flanagan. Shannon?
Hello, everybody. From California, though a big fan of the Canadian peeps as well. So really excited to be here. I'm the VP GM of Global Retail and Consumer Goods at TalkDesk. We are a cloud native end-to-end contact center platform. I like to say customer service platform. We are about, I think, 13 years old at this point, but have been making a lot of changes, innovation, disruption in the marketplace as we have been an AI-driven platform first for a number of years now. I specifically, like I said, support retail and consumer goods, so get to overlook all the things that happen and be one of the cooks in the kitchen to driving really significant value for our companies. I consider myself a retailer gone tech. I've been in retail since I was 18, and this is my first gig in technology and have been with TalkDesk for 3 years. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my why as to why I got into this space later on today. So thank you for everybody. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shannon, and thanks for joining us today. So moving on, let's welcome Amanda Trainer. Amanda?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. And thanks, Elizabeth. Thank you, Sangeeta, as well, for giving us all this opportunity. It's so wonderful to be here with this such esteemed panel of female leaders. So thank you so much. Amanda Trainer, I'm the Territory Director here in Canada for Miratech. Miratech, we have this tagline that we help visionaries change the world. And we actually really do that. We're a 35-year-old global IT services and engineering company. We got our foundation with a wonderful team in Ukraine. 300 of my 1,000 global colleagues remain in Ukraine. And, it's a real privilege for me to represent them here in Canada, to build Canada. Along with my colleague, Oksana Krutovich, we have about 40 other people here, including 2 senior leaders, Olga Skyden, who is our EVP of Global Operations, as well as Raj Atwal, who is our Chief of Staff to our CEO. So Canada is a real area of focus for us. Elizabeth and team, and I am delighted to represent us. I'm delighted to share more about my insights today. Thank you so much.
Oh, wonderful. That's a heartfelt story. So thank you for sharing. And we are very happy to have you as well, Amanda. And we're very excited to have Stephanie Gomez. Stephanie.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Gomez. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Procedure Flow. If you didn't know who we are, Procedure Flow is a visual knowledge management tool that guides agents during real-time conversations so that process information is easy to understand, easy to access, and they can resolve customer inquiries with confidence.
Awesome. Great. Okay. So let's kickstart our session by delving into, I guess, the heart, as I would call it, of our topic with our first question. What initially drew you to a career in the contact center technology? How about Elda? Would you like to kick us off by sharing your story about what drew you to a career in technology?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. For me, I'd have to say was the world circumstances at a time. So it was the late 90s when I immigrated to Canada with my family. And what we experienced was just overwhelming use of technology everywhere around us. Internet was becoming, the mainstream in everybody's home. Y2K was upon us. We were inching to that year 2000. And there was this huge need for computer programmers and computer scientists everywhere, right? So everybody, you just couldn't fill those roles fast enough. So even though it wasn't something that I really saw myself doing, I was more interested in psychology and the human condition. I kind of felt like there's a need there that needs to be filled. So wanting to hit the ground running in the new country, I went and started to study computer science.
Wow.
And what I saw there was not a lot of women. So I was usually one or two in the class, one of two women in the class. And, it didn't stop us. I love working with everybody. So, but it did kind of highlight some of the gaps, also having the women perspective in the technology at the time in the 90s. So that's getting a little bit better, but that's where we were. So that's how I ended up in technology. But once I graduated, there was a lot of a lot of companies out there, and among them, I set my sights at IBM. In my mind, they were the world technology company, the largest in the world back in the day. That were into software and hardware and everything. Things have changed since then, but I wanted to work there, and their contact center was hiring. So to get in, I applied, and that's how I landed in a contact center at IBM, in one of the largest contact centers, IBM for You. And that's where my two passions, technology and contact center, really collided. And I've been at that intersection ever since. So that's how I fell into technology and contact center. I didn't really choose it, but I fell into it.
Yeah, but Elda, it's actually inspiring, about your own personal experience and that shaped your journey. And it's I remember those days too. I don't know if anybody else does, but I know we were panicking, going, "Oh my God, the world's going to fall apart. Our screens are going to fall on the floor. Nothing's going to work anymore." So what a great opportunity to shape your career during that crazy time.
Unlike what's happening today as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Anybody have any thoughts around Elda's story? Any comments?
No, it's wonderful. Sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say is I think we all fell into the contact center industry,
right?
Yeah. No one really chose it. I think when I was, out of school, I couldn't get a job. So I applied for a job in the airlines and a contact center, and as a rep, and I said I like people, when really I didn't as much when I was a kid, but I wanted to travel. So it's one of those things where you just kind of grow up in the industry, and you kind of love what you do.
Yeah, no, it's true. Amanda?
Yeah, I was just going to share that, I actually, similar to Elda and Afshan and everybody else here, probably fell into it myself. I was a social worker. That's how I started my career, working with immigrant women downtown and helping them get contact center jobs. So it was just sort of a natural transition for me to get into technology there. But yeah, it's interesting how, you know, we're all thriving now in this industry, which is wonderful. And it's wonderful to see more women in leadership positions as well.
Definitely. Great. Thank you. So actually moving on to our next question for you, Afshan, could you share a bit about your role within the contact center technology field as you fell into it and moved into it?
Absolutely. Instead of my role, I'm going to talk a little bit about my passion. My passion and expertise is really about improving and enhancing customer and employee experiences. I have 30 years of experience at it. 18 years ago, when we started Switchgear, it was the main reason I left corporate life, to be independent, so I could focus on giving value to others. The last job I had, I was working at a financial institution, and lots of compliance and regulatory and audits, and there's lots of things that you have to do that take up your time. And so I wanted to spend more time really driving the customer and employee experience. So when I look back at my career, when I ran my own contact centers, we didn't really focus on a technology solution. We really focused on what problem did we want to solve, and did that include the right combination of talented people, processes that were simplified, and technology that integrated so it made customer and employee effort less. Sometimes we have technology that makes customer effort less, but it makes employee effort a lot. And then we have challenges with average handle time, because of it. And so I wanted to make sure that both were kind of in place. And so I had the, when you're an executive, you work on all these projects, go-to-market projects, especially, I've got telco experience, so we had go-to-market like every month almost, with new stuff, and CRM integrations, telephony platforms with CTI, and IVR projects and speech rec, and then all the evolution that came. But I have to tell you that what really inspired me to really, get really excited about technology, because, when you work in the contact center, it's all about, well, what's the technology going to do for us? And how's it going to affect my average handle time? And those types of questions. But I got inspired when in my last job, which was with a new Canadian financial institution back in the early 2000s. So I've been in business now 18 years. And we had a very forward-thinking CIO at the time, and an amazing architecture. And we didn't have legacy systems, so that was even, really, really positive. So when she built the website that made the customer experience simpler for customers, she did the same thing for our agents. So what it did for me is that our training was less, because we didn't have to really focus that much on systems. And so we focused on, service and sales and compliance. And they weren't really that stressed out when they got onto the floor, because they didn't have to worry about making mistakes in the system, or, there weren't that many check boxes, so to speak. And so that gave us, a better customer experience when we had a great employee experience. So that was what really inspired me to focus more on technology, because I didn't realize I got a different perspective from a IT perspective, I mean, we're still good friends now, so that's always a good thing, that when when somebody who's very technical, is still friends with you. And so that's inspired me now to really focus on AI. So I meet with a lot of tech companies. I've really gotten myself, very educated in AI. And the last thing that I will say is that, when it comes to anything, whether it's problems or technology, there's so much learning. And the learning doesn't always come from successes. It actually comes from when we fail. And so I've had a lot of those. So it's like, too, where I fell flat on my face. But those are when it makes you stronger, it makes you resilient, and it also, gives you an idea as to what not to do next time.
Yeah, the one word that after what you're sharing for me is perseverance. It's just to persevere through. And thank you for sharing. And clearly it's evident that your expertise contributes significantly to our discussion today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. So our next topic is crucial, in my opinion, to our professional lives. And I'm going to pose the question to Stephanie. What do you find most rewarding about working in contact center technology?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Afshang was talking about because I think for me, I started my career in contact center. When I was in high school, that was my first job. I worked as a contact center agent.
Mhm.
I started in the market research area. So I was that annoying person that would call you at dinner time asking you about the service you just received at a store. And so for me, having lived that experience and understanding the anxiety that I had of taking that first call after training, not being very sure how I was going to answer the questions, or also just by luck, my very first call was a very irate customer, and
By luck.
that that in itself just spiked my anxiety to a whole other level. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, now working in a contact center technology, it comes full circle. I feel like I've gone through that entire journey of what it's like to be on the floor, handling those irate calls, needing help, not understanding where I can find information, failing many times until I finally was proficient in my role. And so now working with so many contact center leaders, you understand why KPIs are important. You understand the impact that customer service has in an
Mhm.
organization, into a brand. And so for me, that's the rewarding part. It's the ability to say, I can help that past Stephanie that was 17 years old, had major anxiety on the phone, and I can say I'm contributing to that experience because at the end of the day, the agent experience is so important. We rely on them to make sure that they provide that comfort to customers. And
Yeah.
so they're the front lines that we want to make sure they're feeling comfortable, they're
Mhm.
proficient, but also they're the face of your organization. And so for me to be able to walk into a contact center and hear that agents are confident, they don't have that anxiety, it's a completely different experience for them.
Mhm.
That's the part that's rewarding for me.
And it's evident that your passion for your work shines through. And, starting off as an agent, that's my story too. So it's near and dear to my heart. I know exactly what I don't want. And I know being very empathetic, to the front line. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any comments to share with Stephanie?
There's
Yeah,
actually
I'd
a
like to.
question. Oh,
Oh,
sorry, Elda.
sorry, I just want to echo what Stephanie was saying, and this is such a female perspective, I have to say, on how you can give back and how you can sympathize and empathize with what the agents are going through. I mean, that's perfectly highlights why women are needed more in technology roles when the technology is being developed,
Yeah.
because you can actually put that lens, that empathetic lens on, and it changes the
And
entire end result, right? So
yes.
very great story. Thank you, Stephanie.
Also culturally too, when I first started, I came up from Newfoundland and came to Toronto, and I started my first job on the phones. And I remember I was saying honey and love and all this, and like people can't
Yeah.
say that. That's not professional. And I go, oh God. But it was really about being empathetic and wanting to help people. But in any event, does anybody have anything else to add?
I was just
There's
gonna
actually a
say,
question in the chat. Sorry,
Oh,
I just
sorry.
wanted to
Go
make
ahead.
sure we had
Yeah.
that. So Pam is asking, I think it was to Afshan, how have you handled change management for long-term legacy employees learning new tech? We're rolling out new tech at a fast pace.
you know what, that is always like there's kind of two when you have like new things coming in, there's like, two kind of resistors, people who kind of hang on to the old way, and then you have folks who have just a long learning curve. Like, they don't have to necessarily be senior, they just have a different way of learning and they just have a long learning curve. And I think one size doesn't fit all. I think you really need to, if you want to roll out a really good change, and I call it leadership strategy, not management, because we need to lead with change instead of manage it. I think you really have to kind of have different kind of strategies for both. For people who are kind of holding on to legacy systems, the funny thing is that that happens to people even if they haven't been around for a while. They just get into a habit. In my last corporate job, when we moved to a new system, we kind of gave Of course, we gave training and practical and get people very comfortable, but really showing them the benefits. So what are the pain points that they have that they hate about the system? Like find what those are. So as soon as you find out what those pain points are, and you can link those to the new system, saying, hey, it's going to solve this for you, it's going to solve that for you, they might come around. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to do that flash cut. It's going to be painful that day, but they're going to go with it. They have no choice to sink or swim. So, people do have this passion of hanging on to old things. And so just to summarize, just really get a very segmented strategy, and then really kind of connect the what's in it for them to the change, which is
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thanks, Pam, for the question. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next question, and that is, given the paramount of the importance of possessing the right skill sets, Shannon, I'm going to direct this question to you, and that is, what advice would you give to other women who are interested in pursuing a career in the contact center technology?
There's so many things that I wanted to say as it relates to what everybody else says. So I'm not going to answer the question directly, but I will get there. So one of the things that I really related to, but I think it ties to skills and qualities that women bring, not all, and we know there's a fluid between the skills that men and women come to bear, but we do know empathy is one. But interestingly enough, when we were doing research about empathy as a part of something about a year and a half ago, we really realized that it's about compassion. Because compassion is taking it to the next step, which is I actually want to do something for you, right? I'm not just hearing you, listening to you, etc. I'm actually helping you. And we created a guide called Creating a Culture of Compassion in the Contact Center, because agents are typically, I believe, might have the hardest job in a company, to be honest, right? They're not responsible for any of the things that have gone wrong. I joke, nobody ever calls because they're happy. But that's largely true. Probably 99% of the time they're calling because there's a problem. So how do you create those conditions? And so Shafan, what you were saying, I'm motivated. When I was in my 20s, I was like, what am I doing here in corporate America? Like, what's the impact I'm making, et cetera? And I really thought about it is that I get very engaged, inspired by creating the conditions for people to love what they do every day. And the reality is, in large part, that's technology. The technology should be so easy to use that the change curve is not that hard. That's another mind shift I think I've tried to talk to customers about is you're rolling out like it's, like this is still like waterfall approach to development, as well as that technology is clunky, because for a long time it was. But the technology should be as easy to use as your phone. And we don't have huge change management plans every time our new phone comes out. Now, often we're not using all the right capabilities. I digress. So let me come back. I'm going to start with some universal career advice. I think you always need to start with your why, and you've heard a handful of our whys already, and I think we'll continue to hear those as we come out. And to really reflect on, when are you most engaged? What do you need to feel energized? What do you need to believe in what you are doing? I think that is key. That's belief in the organization. That's belief in the product, belief in yourself, certainly. What do you need to feel to be challenged? Another question is, what impact and difference do you want to make? We say contact center technology, that there are so many different roles within that shape. So we've got obviously different types of roles here, but where based on where you get energized and you want to be challenged, what kind of impact do you make? And I was talking with somebody once, sharing my story recently, and as I shared it, she gave me the insight that she's like, you focused a lot on what you didn't want to do, and that's why you left somewhere, or what did not work for you. And so I think we focus a lot on what we want, but we don't really think about what are non-negotiables and what are the environments that we don't want to be in and we don't think will be successful. And are we asking questions about that when we're exploring our next roles? And then I'll leave with my journey to TalkDesk. So as I said, I've always been in tech. Now in high school, I did some outbound calling in a contact center. So I've been in the buzz of the room, but I've grown up in retail. And when I started in stores back in the day, we were secret shopped every week because service mattered. And so I have grown up not only in retail, where it's very customer service centric. Reality, though, we know the experiences we have in stores and typically even online and contact centers has been pretty crappy for a really long time. But at the core, I believe in that. So I think coming back into having a belief and an understanding around what contact center technology is trying to deliver is key. So when I came to Talkdesk, it was really hitting the trifecta. One, I saw a huge opportunity that contact centers, unless you were a D2C brand, had been largely forgotten, if not completely forgotten by organizations. They did not see their agents as brand ambassadors. They weren't enabling them. I would imagine still today, the majority of executives have never sat in the seat of one of their agents. They probably have never taken calls. They really focus in on the stores. So with the advent of COVID, or advent, I guess, of COVID, it's not stopped, and the rise of digital transactions, the contact center is now strategically important. And it just came out recently in this last report that service is more important from Salesforce, their holiday report, service is more important than price in terms of determining where somebody's going to shop. So saw strategic importance. Secondly, saw that the majority of them were on-prem. They were going to almost all were on-prem. We're going to have to go to a cloud. So there was going to go to the cloud. So there was a call to action there. But last but not least, I have a handful of things I have no zen about. Traffic is number one, but second is bad customer service. And when there's bad customer service, that's a result of not enabling the agents with the right technology. Obviously, there's a skills fit as well, but largely it's because it's so hard to do their jobs. You know, I don't know who's on this call or who's going to be hearing it, but I didn't know when I got here, most agents have 10 different screens they're looking at. And that is not creating the conditions for people to love what they ever do.
Wonderful. Great. Oh my God, that the first word that comes to mind with you is confidence. It's you're oozing with confidence, and I really appreciate, you know, just hearing these
I
nuggets.
want to clarify, it's not confidence, it's passion, right? Because I
Yeah,
am energized by it. I do believe in it. It does
you
challenge me,
do.
right? Those are the reasons why I said ask those kind of questions. Because if you have that, those are really the skills, right? I would call them, we don't really traditionally think of them as skills, but
Mm.
in fact, those are the things you need to do to really, I think, make impact and love what you do every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Shannon. So we're going to move on to Amanda. I'm going to pass the baton over to you for your thoughts around what emerging technologies do you see having the biggest impact on contact centers in the near future?
Well, you know, I give a lot of thought to this, Elizabeth. Obviously, AI is top of everybody's mind, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But, you know, I'd like to reflect on something that impacts everything that everybody said, in particular around, you know, enhancing the agent experience, enabling the agents to be more proficient, make better use of their time, those kinds of things. And I think, you know, regardless of the technology, I think integration as a service, I think that has to be a foundational tenet and strategy within your overarching strategy. I mean, so, you know, when I started way back when I was an overlay sales specialist for Nortel Networks for contact centers, Symposium Contact Center Server. It's a long time ago. It was on-prem, big iron, you know, ACD. We weren't even talking about CTI at the time. I mean, that was, you know, in the offing. So I look now at the evolution of all these various different technologies. And, you know, I will tell you that contact centers, from a routing perspective, from a feature set perspective, they're very much similar types of technologies. The importance is, how do you integrate all of the other peripheral technologies to allow for you know, a seamless operation within your contact center, leading to improved customer experience, but especially around, I think, the increased agent capabilities. Productivity is important, but certainly, you know, having the ability to integrate all those pieces to allow agents to have more meaningful interactions, better interactions, more informed interactions. I think for me, integration as a service has to be a core tenet. It's something that we talk to our customers about all the time. And I think it's something they want to leverage existing great technologies that are, you know, coming to the fore within their contact centers. So integration as a service, I see, is absolutely you know, a foundational piece to your overarching strategy. And obviously AI and natural language processing, they're essential. I will say this around AI and NLP, I think that it's important that, you know, to your point earlier, Shannon, to attend to, you know, the people who are actually delivering the service, and then to attend to them on their own terms. I think we have to be very careful that AI development, you know, takes into and contemplates things like bias and discrimination. So, you know, because if we just take a very, you know, sort of binary approach to implementing AI, developing things, you know, bots within AI systems, I think that, you know, we risk perpetuating and amplifying biases, you know, and we have to be really careful about that. So while AI is absolutely, you know, changing the landscape, it is allowing for us to, you know, do all sorts of wonderful things within the contact center, outside of the contact center. I think it's important that, you know, underneath all of that, we certainly have an understanding of how to shape it so that we're not amplifying the biases and discriminations. And then I will say just one more thing is, you know, generative AI is absolutely, you know, and I know Elda's going to talk a little bit more about this, but again, going back to the agent experience, allowing the agents to have more time post calls and things like that, you know, to be able to really deliberate on their interactions, deliver proper, meaningful, you know, service while reducing handle times, is essential as well. So those are the you know, three, I'd say, compelling things I see. As well as advanced analytics, you know, that's essential. I know Elda's going to talk a little bit more about that. You know, and I just want to amplify a little bit about what Shannon said in terms of, you know, finding your passion is key. And for me, at this point in my career, finding my passion is still around, you know, amplifying and lifting more women in technology. So that's why my comments about AI, making sure that we are, you know, making it non-binary, you know, not binary rather, making sure that we're opening that up so that we don't apply discrimination and bias within the AI structures that we're building is really essential. So that, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you so much for sharing, Amanda. I think that the trends that you're focused on highlights the importance of adapting overall to technological advancements. So thank you. I'm wondering if we pause here just for a minute. And Stephanie, do we have any other questions that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, we actually got a question from Katerina, and
Okay.
she's asking, taking into consideration all the news about future with AI, do you believe that replacement of people in contact center and all around this industry will happen, or vice versa, customers would like to get more personalized human help and interaction than with a robot or AI? It's a great question.
It's a good one.
Yes. Would anyone want to start? Elda?
Yeah, I mean, it perfectly dovetails into, I guess, our next question as well, right? So,
Yes.
that's a question. I wish I had $1 for every time that question gets asked, because most of us have been in the contact center agent's shoes and have worked in that job, and it's definitely something that's top of mind, is how is that going to impact my day-to-day, right? And you know, Amanda has spoken a little bit about that and is empowering the agents to deliver the best possible customer experience they can. And oftentimes, you know, you know that agents have these little post-it notes on their desk, their own little, you know, Word documents where they have these answers, or, you know, their own best practices. That's not a repeatable process. Everybody's kind of training themselves over time, and as they become more proficient in their job. And I think we can do better than that. The technology is offering us a really great solution to that, with some of the agent assist type of capabilities that are, you know, coming to market, some next best action type capabilities, knowledge bases that we can now surface to our agents, so they don't have to have their own little post-its and notes and share internally. it also centralizes the knowledge for everyone. So next time we hire a group of agents, we're reducing that training time for the agents, right? So they don't have to be, at that level proficiency where they have memorized all the answers. The answers will be fed to them by the agent assist in their workspace, right? So it's really making agents more proficient, and as a result, it's reducing the average handle time. There's no more need to put them on hold, go find out, ask somebody, right? So we're overall improving the operation of the contact center by layering on that, blending the AI with the human agent, right?
Yeah.
But we're also kind of helping the agent with making their lives more enriching. So we're taking away the repetitive types of calls. So, they're not getting those inundated with simple requests like password resets or change my address. A lot of these types of requests can be automated. So the bots can handle the repetitive, boring type calls and get the agents using their brains, their very smart brains, to solve for very, very complex situations, right? So that will improve retention because agents will feel more purpose in their day-to-day job. We're not going to see as much churn, right? So overall, I don't see a huge threat to reduction in number of agents. There's going to be a shift in what people will want to be doing with their career, right? So there's new career paths opening up with emergence of jobs like conversational designers, experienced designers that are going to be leveraging the AI to design the journey for the customer. Prompt designers is another one, if you could look that up. But to what Amanda was touching upon is the risk governance associated with the deployments of AI in regulated industries. There's a lot of opportunity for people to get into roles such as risk managers and model risk managers in particular, where you're actually looking to see how the implications of AI will impact bias, impact all of the regulations that you have to comply with. And there's a lot for humans to do in the equation. Absolutely. I don't see them going away.
No, great points. In terms of the question that we had spoke about foreseeing artificial intelligence and machine learning continuing to transform, did you want to add? Because you're basically answering that
That's
question.
it. I mean, and that's, I guess, my point of view on that for sure.
Yeah, no, that's great. I've noticed that some jobs where they become more automated, but there's humans in the background making sure if they don't fall apart, they got to fix it and they got to fix it fast. So it is a contact center role, but it's going to be more of what we would define as a back office role.
Yeah, more enriching. Okay,
Yeah.
I would say a more enriching job description, right?
Yeah,
You'll see some of
absolutely.
those repetitive skills kind of go to the bots, and there's always going to be a need for a human. There's a lot of regulation about use of AI coming out, and in Europe, we're seeing a concept of right to speak to a human as a basic right. So even if the companies employ a lot of, if they employ a lot of automation and bots, there's going to be a regulatory requirement potentially that requires you to have humans in the loop, which is absolutely something I agree with. But another very exciting kind of area of AI that not a lot of people talk about in depth. I mean, we've seen generative AI come to forefront a lot, and everybody's asking, well, what do I do with it? So we've had some early deployments, and you've seen in the news, summarization type solutions to help agents reduce the after work time, right? So they'll summarize the call for them. And it's a really neat feature. But what a lot of people don't actually see, which I think is exciting for people in contact center IT especially, is the features that help us reduce the development times. So generative AI has a huge impact on reducing the development times. And I think what was the big challenge in in IT is keeping the lights on, but also adopting innovative new features. And the pace at which we're adopting the features is very slow because it is very costly, requires a lot, like a net new project with a ton of resources. So that was always limiting us in ability to adopt new features. With generative AI, we can reduce the development time by about 70%, which means that some of these projects are more attainable for contact centers to actually embark on, which is very, very exciting. So we're catching up. We're catching up with it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Great insights. So moving on, for Afshan, how can contact centers harness the potential of augmented reality and virtual reality to enhance agent training, troubleshooting, and customer support in the future?
It's we probably could have a webinar just
on that.
And from what Elda said, the thing that I would add on, which is a nice dovetail into this question, is that this requires upskilling of your team. Like if your company isn't focused on developing some of those advanced skills like critical thinking, when I go to clients, that's probably their biggest pain point is, can we get our folks to kind of think critically, make good decisions, have good judgment? Like all of those skills are really very, very important, and will continue to become even more important as they take more complex types of situations. To answer this question, I thought maybe what I could do is just kind of give a couple of definitions, what's augmented reality and what's virtual reality, to kind of set the tone. So augmented reality, what it does, it takes your like real life surroundings and it adds some digital elements into a live view. So for example, if you want to show somebody how to do step-by-step, on a computer, for example, or a machine, a lot of it's being used in manufacturing right now. If they want to operate a machine, and it would serve up, instructions, it's just very similar to, if you have, I forget what that name of that feature is on a car where you can see everything in the windshield. It's kind of like that. So we have like everyday examples, like if you go to Sephora, you want to see what it looks like with that lipstick or whatever, that would be an example. Virtual reality is more of an immersive experience, like it replaces your real life environment with a simulated one. So you can access it through a headset, and you've probably seen the Oculus, and I believe Apple just released a new headset, or you can stream it through your computer, and most people are streaming it right now. And so if you're with a headset, it really mimics real life, and if it's streaming, you're interacting with the avatar. So that would be kind of the thing.
Cool.
So the reason why you want to be thinking about this, it will actually be disruptive. This is going to be very disruptive to the way we learn and develop our teams. And I think there's lots of reasons. Right now, we're virtual hybrid. It's really hard in those environments to keep learners motivated and engaged in a virtual, like, we're doing okay today, but, if you're sitting here for 2 hours or 2.5 hours or full day, it's another thing. The forgetting curve is still huge, when you think about it. And it takes a long time for agents to become truly proficient. And there's lots, and we're really doing this at the detriment of our customers. So we're trying to learn these skills while we're serving customers. And I know that every company is looking at their technology roadmap and how AI, will integrate to it. So what that means is in the future, there's going to be a lot of changes to new systems, new processes, as we go through the various iterations. So the thing is that at the end of the day, we've got to kind of help people, regardless of what we're doing, taking what they're learning and turning it into natural language and fluidity into a customer conversation, regardless of what medium, whether we're writing or we're speaking. And so, and I also think there's a really great application for this for leaders, showing them how to coach, make good decisions, their analytical and critical thinking skills. So it's not just at the agent level. I think it is really at both the agent and the leaders. So there's lots of benefits for it. It's risk-free. You can make a mistake and no one's going to judge you, and you actually get to understand what the real life consequences is because you're in a real life situation, with a pretend customer, so there's no risk of ruining the relationship. And it's a low pressure way, to really practice high stakes conversation. And because it's kind of a safe environment, it increases motivation, engagement in the learning process. I think I was reading the other day this PwC study that said that those individuals who had experienced VR training were 4 times more emotionally connected to the content than classroom learners. Is that amazing?
That is a big one. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hands-on learning, so better retention, recall of information. You can test your learners so you can see, where they are. It's customized, and it actually allows companies. I think, I think you were saying, Shannon, I think you were saying, how many executives have kind of put themselves in the shoes of customers. Well, this is a great way to put those executives in the shoes of customers, because we can actually put our agents in the shoes of customers to get that greater empathy. We have a hard time kind of training on empathy, and we talk about it in definitions and practice, but actually when you're in the shoes of a customer, I think, you can kind of develop that. So despite all those great benefits, I don't think it's quite there yet, any of the demonstrations that I've seen, but for soft skills, for agents and leaders, troubleshooting and general problem solving, definitely I can see where there's, some opportunity. So here's some of the challenges. Equipment, software is expensive, but, I think people will have budgets for it, because if we can send a laptop to somebody's home, I think we probably could send a headset, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Wonderful. And honestly, we're going to dovetail now into this question for Stephanie, because with respect to the rise of remote workforce, Stephanie, what innovations in technology do you anticipate will support and enhance virtual contact center operations? And I think, Afshan, I'm sure there's some going to be weaved in here of what you're suggesting. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, no, thank you for that. I agree. I think I'll dovetail into what Afshan was talking about, because I think the reality as we move into a remote, well, we're already living in a remote environment, but as there is more onboarding of remote agents, there's 2 things that happen, and not only communication and engagement are important, but the big thing that you lose is that ability to raise your hand and ask a floater to help you with an escalation, or turning around and asking your next door neighbor to help you troubleshoot a customer inquiry.
Yeah, the body language.
Problem. Exactly. So you don't have access to that. And so I think the big thing that's going to start happening, it's almost like, I don't know if it's a quiet revolution of knowledge, but it's that concept of your agents now in a remote environment are going to need knowledge more than ever. And so to the point where sometimes executives haven't experienced what an agent goes through, the multiple screens, the multiple systems that they have to navigate to be able to answer that question. There's also the multiple sources of knowledge that exist. And is that knowledge accurate? Is it up to date? Is it easily navigatable and accessible to your team? I think, Elda, you mentioned about the sticky notes. That knowledge needs to live somewhere virtually. When COVID happened, everybody lost their sticky notes. They had to go home, and those were not available to them. And so when I think about contact center operations in a virtual environment, that's the big thing that I would say we need to start thinking about if we haven't already begun that journey, which is reviewing the knowledge. Is that information accessible? Because even as you bring in artificial intelligence and automation, those systems require accurate data to be able to learn and evolve from. And if you don't have those out, if you don't know which processes touch which systems and how those automations work, then the data that's going to come out from those sources is just going to be as inaccurate as the original sources. So that would be the big thing that I would say is make sure you understand where your knowledge sits, make sure that it's accessible and super accurate. but also create a single source of truth and create a roadmap for your agents, a knowledge that they can access, so that they don't have to wait and figure out where do I go and find that information, because that adds to your average handle time.
It does. Great points. Wonderful. I can totally resonate with this. So thank you very much to both you and Afshan. I really appreciate both of your insights. So thanks. Okay, moving on to Shannon. How do you see contact center technology evolving in the next few years? And what are your thoughts around, some challenges and opportunities?
Well, I would say I think the panel has done a great job of already answering that question. I don't think I have a lot more to add, because I think it's summed up in one word. It's AI and how that is going to change all of the experiences, and already is changing, not just from the agent experience, of course, but from the customer experience. So what I was going to talk a little bit more about, though, is when we think about the opportunities and challenges for both tech companies as well as contact center organizations and the brands that they're supporting, is the maturity model, where we really think about our service historically and still in many ways is transactional and reactive. We've now started to move into proactive and conversational, as AI, and in particular Gen AI, is now supercharging us to get to much more interactive and
Yeah.
anticipatory service. Then last but not least, immersive. So in the world of retail, and I imagine in healthcare, there's going to be a lot of use cases that you have a service rep. It's not even a service rep. It's going to go back to what it used to be like in retail stores, when the same person who was selling you, helping you, servicing you, right? We're all one person. Will be that in a virtual reality, when we will be in a world where we have digital twins and we're shopping there, or we're getting healthcare advice, et cetera. So I think that is where it's going. I think, and I use brands, companies, right? Anybody who's got a contact center space, sorry, default to my retail language, really should be thinking about where are they on that curve? What's it going to take? Where do they want to prioritize? So then as it relates to the challenges, to be honest, is I think some of them have been spoken about today. Bias hallucinations. We did a survey of customers, and you guys, I was blown away, and it was in the realm of shopping, but roughly 75% do not use product recommendations because they believe they have bias in them today, right? Let alone go forward. And then around the right to, I think privacy is a huge issue. We've talked a lot about security, right? GDPR, et cetera. But now privacy laws are coming in, and they're not internationally driven like GDPR is. It's by state, it's by country, maybe by region. And so what we're also saying, I think that's a huge piece. And I love the right to speak to a human one, right? Because I know a lot of American brands who have cut phones. In fact, we have a customer who's downsizing and cutting phones, and it's just still shocking to me that anybody would think that that's a good service experience. Certainly not driving with the customer in mind. But when in this part of the survey, also we asked people around their data, and 80+%, you guys, we're talking 80 to 85% on a series of different questions, all came back to say, I want to give permission on how my data is going to be used. I want to know when AI is going to be used, et cetera. So building the AI ethics, I think will really also be key. And I think they should always be, this is a today challenge, but it's always going to be a challenge. What's the experience you want your customers to have? That's where they should always start. Then how do you enable your agents to do that? Do you want to drive more self-service? But what are those use cases for self-service, right? If you look at self-checkout right now, which is blowing up, right, and being removed, it's because the use cases weren't done with the customer in mind, right? They were done with labor reduction in mind, not creating, putting it not in the right situation. So I do really think that that's where they still need to start. But yeah. I tried to add a little bit of newness, because you got the rest of this group, shockingly, not at all surprisingly, nailed a lot of the big advancements that are happening already and coming down. Right.
Well, thanks though for the statistics. That was actually interesting. I didn't know that. But Amanda, so for our last question, how do you think advancements in cloud technology will impact scalability, flexibility, and security of our contact center operations?
Yeah, I mean, just everything that everybody's talked about today is just, it's exciting. It's gonna just really evolve as we move forward. And I think that things like scalability, flexibility, and security are, everybody's touched on it, but they're essential. You know, in terms of scalability, the ability to have, you know, a global talent pool, you know, is absolutely profound for a lot of companies. It's a game changer, you know, having access to amazing talent in other areas of the world, you know, to address peak times, to address, you know, all sorts of other cultural dependencies, things like that. So I think scalability absolutely is core rather, you know, to enabling all these other technologies and AI to really, you know, have companies take advantage of those. Flexibility, I'm going to try and, you know, go really fast here, Elizabeth, because I know you're trying to get to the final wrap up. Flexibility, obviously, you know, the agility to have a flexible environment, to allow other technologies to be integrated, allows again for minimal disruption, allows for enhanced customer experience, better agent productivity, agent experience, those kinds of things. And security, obviously, Shannon touched on it. I think, you know, having an ethics, rules-based view of AI and how that's going to be rolled out is essential to, you know, just everything we do as people, right? I think it's about honoring who we are, who our customers, who our agents are. So I think security is key to all of the things that we're talking about today and enabling them in a very, very ethical way. Yeah,
Great.
that's it.
Thank you. That's awesome. So we're at the 4-minute mark. And so as we near the end, I thought that maybe our panels could share one final key takeaway, maybe 30 seconds of any advice, even for women in considering a career in the contact center technology. How about we start off? 30 seconds would be great. Elda, do you want to kick it off for us?
Yeah, thank you. I have 2 teenage daughters, and so I'm always convincing them to go into technology. That one wants to go to law, and the other one wants to do volleyball for the rest of her life. So I would encourage any girl or woman to go into technology career because it is a very rewarding field. The insights that women can bring, the views that women can bring into technology are, you know, lacking even today. And there's a need for women here. When there's a need, there's an opportunity. So definitely don't shy away from it. Go for it. It's enriching, and you're not going to be making a mistake.
Wonderful. Thank you. Stephanie, what are your thoughts?
I think for me, it's what we heard a bit today. So I'll take a different take, which is if you want to get into technology, get comfortable with failing because there's going to be a lot of that along the way. And so it's okay to fail. And I think sometimes as women, we shy away from it, or, you know, that's what prevents us from applying to that job because we don't fit 100% of the requirements. So I would say embrace the failure, learn from it, and the faster you can learn and the faster you can pivot, the more successful you will be at living in that discomfort.
Awesome. I hate failure, so I get it. Afshan.
I would just say 2 things. You know, there's seems to be so many AI companies out there, it becomes overwhelming. And being in the industry, I would just really focus on what problem you're trying to solve. And as you build your technology roadmap, build a people roadmap, you know, and I think it's really important that, you know, we don't forget that part. You know, we often build customer roadmap, but employee roadmap is important because that will change, you know, what they do.
Great. Thank you so much. Shannon?
I mean, ditto what everybody else had to say. And we did talk, I mean, it's trite, but it's true. Know your why. And I do think if you have a passion for technology and you have a passion for people, and you do really care about creating great experiences for customers, for your employees, the intersection of these 2 things are really a no-brainer. I think if you love those 2 things. So don't be shy about going out there and doing a role that's outside of your comfort zone. Amanda knows this. I've launched a retail women in tech community. that is global. So anybody from any field can come in, but it's really helping have the conversations around how do you take skill sets and bring them into technology. And then how, when you're in technology, how do you thrive as a woman? Or if you're in technology and you want to go into a business, maybe you want to go run a contact center. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great nuggets. Thank you very much. Amanda? 30
Lots,
seconds.
I know, 30 seconds. The
Yeah.
fact that we're here together, sharing insights from a female lens is truly inspiring for me. And I hope it is for everybody who joined us today. Elizabeth, you were wonderful. The panel was wonderful. I learned a lot, and Sangeeta is the best. Just want to give a big call out to Sangeeta too. Thank you.
For sure. I actually wanted to end, first of all, thank you all. I've learned a lot too, and I appreciate your expertise. You're all wonderful people, so thank you. But we have some good news about GTACC 2024. We've got our 15th annual conference, and it's going to be held November the 7th at the Mississauga Convention Center. And the tickets are on sale now, and they're early bird tickets, so you should seriously take a look at it. It's a great, wonderful conference. I've been there for many years and I've gleaned so much out of it. So thank you very much. And there's other opportunities to join other webinars on the GTACC website. So again, thank you very much to the panelists. You guys have been phenomenal, and I'm sure we'll cross paths again. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank
You're
you,
doing a great
everybody.
job.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Happy
Bye.
spring.